everyone. My name is Liliana, and I'm Joey's daughter. I've always called him Papa, so if I say that, I'm referring to him. I wanted to thank everyone for coming today. I think my dad sometimes struggled to see how loved he is, and I hope that now he sees all these people here, and he knows that everyone in this room is here because they loved him so much, and I hope he feels that love as well. In our everyday relationships as humans, it's normal to have unconditional love for one another. No matter how long you've known someone or how many close memories you have, or times when there's been miscommunication or rather negative feelings, we always wish the best and love one another. But there's always some people that have an especially soft and special place in our hearts. No matter what the situation they're in, your love for them is constantly overflowing. And you love them so much, it almost makes your heart ache. That is how I feel about my Papa, and how I've always felt about him. When I was a little girl, I was fascinated with him. I loved his creativity, generosity, and goofiness. He was about 6'3", 6'4", and used to be a football player, so a rather big guy. And as his little girl, I knew he would always keep me safe and protected. I always wanted to be around him, and I went to him for comfort. He knew what I wanted or needed even when I didn't know myself. I believe my Papa's strongest desire in his life was to love and make his kids happy, and his cats. As a child, I loved Barbies and stuffed animals, and my brother, video games and Legos, and he bought them for us all the time. It maybe wasn't the best for disciplining your child, but he just wanted to give us all that he could and to see his kids happy. My Papa was a very talented man who built and remodeled homes. We lived in a rented house that had 2 stories to it, and after he bought it, he built another 2 stories on top of it. And as an 8-year-old, I didn't know that his job consisted of flipping houses to later sell. So my perspective was that he built the coolest house ever with my brother and I's own personal playrooms just for us. And, well, for a few years it was. My dad was a kind and gentle man. He wasn't the type of guy who liked to sit down and talk for hours. He was active, observant, and a wanderer. My whole family knows him as the Wanderer. He always liked doing things, going somewhere, and observing details of things that not many of us would stop to look at. I think that his best friend at family gatherings was my 10-year-old cousin Oliver, because they were always wandering off to look at fish in the water or bugs in the grass, and there was always the question of, where's Joey, or where's Oliver? And if those questions were side by side, you could assume they were together. My Papa loved to water ski and wakeboard, swim, play games, read war books, go to thrift shops, eat good food, cook, garden, and drive muscle cars. He liked to chat, but about specific topics, like his cats, or toppings on a sandwich, or the food growing in his backyard, the giant cherry tree he had, or if you're my husband, sawdust. I'm not sure why, but that was really fascinating to them. He always had interesting nicknames for people and animals. If you didn't have one, you were gonna get one soon. Some of them off the top of my head are Waldo, Igor, Flanders, and Bozo the Clown. I think mine's the best. It was Squiggy the Squirrel. And every time I saw him or called him, I was greeted with a Squiggy. My dad was not the center of attention, but was rather quiet most of the time. but it felt like something was missing if he wasn't there. He brought this sense of comfort and this sense of safety when he was, and you could definitely feel it. He loved cats, always had one at least all times. He treated them like his own kids, and they were in love with him right back. They followed him when he went on walks, and they perched up on his chest while he watched TV. As it was said before, he had these giant hands, but would build these tiny little war models, and somehow could always untangle my necklaces. He had this one shirt that said, "Joe Fix It," and that was one of my favorites because he could fix just about anything. Speaking of his clothing, he was always an interesting dresser, not in a bad way, but in a, "why are you still wearing that shirt? It has a bunch of holes in it" way. But you know what? I loved it because it was himself, and he was always and consistently himself. And I love that about him. My mom and dad divorced when I was 6. However, when I was a bit older, my dad started coming on family vacations with us. Some may find this weird with my mom and stepdad, but all 3 of my parents had the best intentions of mine, which was for the kids. And let me tell you, I was the happiest when I had my whole family together. He was best friends with my mother and stepfather, and they both loved him so much. My stepdad and my dad loved each other as friends and as family, and I hope that goes to show you what kind of person my dad was. My dog's favorite person in the world was my papa. His name is Mo, and he would always cry and yelp like a puppy when he heard my dad's truck pulling up, and almost knocked him over, jumping up on him every time he saw him. My dad was a good-hearted man. He wished for his loved ones to be happy, and he had unconditional love for his mom and dad, sister and brothers and their spouses, for his nieces and nephews and aunts and uncles, cousins, friends, and family of those friends. He loved his new son, my husband, and he loved my in-laws too. And he never stopped loving his ex-in-laws like they were his own blood relatives. I got married this August, and the week before the wedding, when the family was starting to trickle in, we were trying to practice for this ridiculous, fun dance with both my dad and my stepdad. Put lots of effort in, and seeing my dad, who wasn't the best dancer, trying to dance made my heart warm, because he just wanted to see his little girl happy. I was so worried about how he was going to look at the wedding, because he had a very nice blazer, but no matching pants. And I kept bugging him about it to get it figured out, and he kept telling me not to worry about it, and I didn't know what that meant. But if he was going to look ridiculous, then so be it. Well, the day of the wedding, he showed up to do our first looks, and he looked so handsome, and he matched the pants perfectly. Turns out that dance I was talking about earlier didn't work out so well, but we did have a traditional slow daddy-daughter dance, and I held on to him so tight, and I started to cry because my heart was so overwhelmed with how much I loved him, how much I've always loved him, and I'm so grateful I had that moment with him. He walked me down the aisle that day, which is something a girl always dreams of. And he busted down on the dance floor. And I think it was one of the happiest days of his life. And it made me so beyond happy to have those memories of him. A few months ago, I painted a mural at Dorian's studio on Mission Street. I spent a week with my dad while I worked. The first day of the project, he came with me to project the image at night and also to protect me. He got this big piece of cardboard and hovered over me, casting shade from the street lamp so I could trace the image. And on the second to last day, I was painting the top half of the building, and my arm was getting so tired after just the tiniest strip of paint, and I felt frustrated thinking I was never going to finish it. So I called my papa and said I needed his help. He showed up 30 minutes later with a giant ladder, some roller brushes, and a really outdated portable radio. He fearlessly set up his ladder to go up 16 feet on a 5-foot ledge and started to paint so efficiently and so fast with little effort. I was so relieved. He helped me the last day too and even made some of his own contributions. It was so special to work on a project with him. At the end, I asked him where he wanted his name to be for the signature. He said I didn't have to put it anywhere. I considered it for a moment, but it didn't feel right not to put it on. So I ultimately signed it by Lily and Joey, right in the middle. I showed that later to him, and it said it made him feel so good. And I'm so happy I did that. If you ever drive by and see it, please do admire the artwork. But more importantly, please think of my dad driving up in his big white truck to help out his little girl. My heart hurts severely, and I miss my papa every moment of every day, and I will for the rest of my life. Papa, I love you so much, and I miss you, and you will be in my heart. And memories forever, every single day. I hope you are at peace, and I hope to see you again after my life has ended. Thank you for being my papa. I love you so much. Thank you all again for coming. Joey loved all of you so much. Please keep him in your heart and memories forever. Peace be with you all. Love, Liliana.